Hey everybody, let's walk through Accomplice liability and criminal law for the bar exam. So we're going to walk through common law and then we'll go through modern law. You must know both for your exam. So let's walk through common law first. And we'll walk through the Barbie outliner right now that will put all this in plain English. So under the common law, parties to a crime included the principal in the first degree, which was the defendant who committed the actual crime itself. Principal in the second degree, accessories before the fact, and accessories after the fact. What do those mean? So let's be more precise. Let's use an example here. Let's say that Riley is the man who commits the crime. He would be the principal in the first degree under the common law because he actually committed the crime. Let's say Israel is the guy who is the getaway car driver. He would be the principal in the second degree because he was present when the principal in the first degree, Riley, committed the crime. Therefore, Israel will be the principal in the second degree because, again, he was aiding and abetting, encouraging, helping Riley commit the crime. He was present at the crime scene, and Riley was the person who actually committed the bank robbery by getting the gun and getting the money from the bank so he can successfully commit his crime. Accessories before and after the fact, very straightforward. Accessories before the fact is, let's say Wade, the accessory before the fact, helped Riley and Israel get the car and a gun. Wade, the man who is the accessory before the crime, before the act in this case, would be the man who gave Riley the gun, let's say for $10, and gave Israel his car to use for the crime. So the car that Israel is driving would be Wade's car. So because Wade gave the car before the crime happened, Wade would be an accessory before the fact, and he would be the person who basically aided and facilitated the principal in the first and second degree to actually commit the crime. Lastly, under the common law, an accessory after the fact is very straightforward. Okay, word for word, it states this. An accessory after the fact is a person with knowledge that the other committed the felony. It must be a felony. The person assisted the person who committed the felony to escape arrest or punishment. In plain English, what does that mean? That means that, let's say Riley and Israel, like I said before, committed the crime of robbery. So after they commit the crime of robbery, they committed a felony. Because we all know under the common law, even modern law, that robbery is technically a felony. So let's say they commit the robbery, and after they drive away from the bank, they go to Austin's house. And Austin realizes that they committed that felony, that robbery. Riley and Israel tell Austin he has knowledge that Israel and Riley, our two principals here, committed the felony. And Austin says, okay guys, stay in my house, relax in my basement, hide in there for the next X amount of weeks or so you can avoid arrest and punishment from the cops. That'll automatically make Austin an accessory after the fact because the crime has already been committed. He knows that the defendant, Riley, committed the robbery, and he still decided to help Riley escape arrest or punishment from law enforcement. Therefore, Austin will be liable as an accessory after the fact under the common law. So remember, 4 categories of the common law is the principal in the first degree, the person who commits the crime; the principal in the second degree, the person who was present at the crime, who aided and facilitated the principal in committing that crime. We have an accessory before the fact, is the person who aided and helped the principal commit the crime by giving that person some type of aid. Let's say the gun that Wade gave Riley before Riley committed the crime. The car that Wade gave Israel before Israel and Riley went to go to the bank to commit the crime, and Israel used the car to drive away from the bank with Riley to escape law enforcement. And lastly, we have an accessory after the fact is Austin, who knew that Riley and Israel committed that felony. He has knowledge of the felony. He knows that the defendant committed the felony, and yet he still helps and aids Riley to avoid punishment or arrest from law enforcement. Therefore, if you remember those 4 categories and don't confuse the 4, you should be just fine in your essay and or the MBE. Lastly, let's talk about modern law. Modern law is very straightforward. Very straightforward. It's easy as pie. It's nowhere near as complicated as the common law because there aren't 4 categories here. Under the modern law, as it states here, there are basically 3 categories here. The principal, as we discussed, is the one with the requisite mens rea, the mental intent, who actually engaged in the act or omission that caused the criminal result. That means the principal, like the principal of the first degree in common law, under the modern law, the principal is the person who committed the crime. Riley, under the modern law, would still be a principal, not in the first degree, but simply a principal. That's who Riley would be. He'd be a principal. Secondly, we have accomplice. Accomplice is a person who aids, advises, or encourages the principal, the man who committed the crime, let's say Riley, in the commission of the crime charge. So Wade would be the perfect example. Because think about it, like we said in our example, Wade gave Israel the car, the getaway car. Wade gave Riley the gun. Therefore, Wade would be an accomplice because he is the person who aided, he advised, and he encouraged the principal, Riley, to commit the robbery because he gave him the gun. Basically, without the gun, Riley wouldn't have been successful in the crime, right? Because obviously with the gun, that will successfully allow a robbery to be completed. So basically, because of that reason, he helped Riley, and he would be an accomplice under the modern law. And to keep in mind here, there is still an accessory after the fact under the modern law. So an accessory after the fact is the same thing. Same deal. Is the person who helps another person who committed a felony. The accomplice after the fact knows that the person committed the felony, and the person still helped that person who committed the felony basically get away from arrest or law enforcement. Therefore, that will be the 3 categories under modern law. Principal, man who committed the crime. Accomplice, person who aided or encouraged the principal to commit the actual crime itself. Example, Wade giving Riley, the principal, the gun. And lastly, accessory after the fact, which means the same as common law, which means that the person knew that the defendant committed the felony after the felony actually happened, and our guy, the accessory after the fact, actually helped the principal escape arrest or punishment. And that'll be Austin, who helped Riley escape from law enforcement after Riley committed the crime, when Austin knew Riley committed the robbery and allowed Riley to hide in his house so he can escape from arrest. Therefore, that is accomplice liability under the common law and the modern law, and as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. Therefore, that will end our discussion on accomplice liability.